We still pay him. Yeah.
Sometimes you get a little bit more, you get a bonus for the next 5 years or 3 years.
Used to, yeah, they used to. But they actually do the opposite. They give you a bonus if you leave. Depending on the person.
When I started working in Colorado Springs, I was the first year where they stopped giving health insurance for the rest of your life.
Oh.
For the rest of your life. I was in the first year that wasn't included in that package.
All right, I'm gonna get started here.
Good evening, everyone. We will begin our Board of Appeals meeting for the City of Holland. Just a quick reminder that board members are regular citizens of Holland who have volunteered and have been appointed by City Council to consider applications to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Housing Board of Appeals, the Construction Board of Appeals, and for accommodations for persons with disabilities. This board must interpret each application as it relates to city ordinances. This board is not empowered to rezone or to take any action that could be considered rezoning. We have copies of the agenda in the back if you need them, and they will be in the order that the applications were received by the city. The presence of 4 board members is required for a quorum, and it takes 4 concurring votes to approve applications. When your application is called, we ask that you please come to the microphone and state your name and address. We will hear the applicant first, then anyone supporting the application, followed by anyone opposing it. After the public hearing is closed, there will be no other opportunity for further public comment related to that application. Decisions of this board are final and are effective on the day of the decision. However, applicants may appeal decisions to the circuit court in accordance with state law. You do not need to stay to witness our deliberation and decision, and you can contact the Community and Neighborhood Services Department tomorrow morning to learn the results. Meetings are streamed live online and recorded and are available on the city's YouTube channel. So, if we have no objections with our agenda, will our clerk please read our first item?
Yes, so the first item is for 48 West 18th Street, application number 21.16Z. Mike Van Klompenberg is requesting a variance to construct a roof over the entry steps at his rental property located at 48 West 18th Street. The roof would have no setback where a 3-foot setback from the property line is required. The Board of Appeals can approve this request if certain conditions are found to exist, 39-2.08 and 39-9.06D4.
Thank you. And do we have a representative here?
You do.
Excellent. And you got to listen to some of our.
I did.
Good. Hopefully
Leading information.
It was good information for you as well.
It
Good.
was, so. Well, good evening. My name is Mike Van Klompenberg, and I am the owner of 48 West 18th, 48 and 48 and a half. I'm here tonight to request a variance to construct the roof over the side entrance on the west side of the property. Just a few thoughts that I've got. I believe that the proposed roof is the best option with the least impact on the property and is the minimal option to provide a safe, clear, and well-lit entrance for this property. The hardship in this situation, I feel, was caused by way back where the house was placed, we assumed 3 feet from the lot line, and which I had no control over at that time. The existing landing on the west side of the property has been there since I've owned the property, and I acquired the property in 1999. The size has been the same, has not changed. I have put some new deck boards on it and stuff like that to keep it in repair, but that's all I've done to it. So, the primary objective of this roof is to be able to provide the safest entrance and exit as possible from this property. I actually have had situations where the ice and snow, because whoever built it so high, there's not much clearance to the door, and I have had tenants call and not being able to get into the apartment because of the ice and the snow buildup. So I'm just concerned that if the situation goes on, that somebody might not be able to get out of the apartment if they need to in an emergency situation. And the basis that I ask you tonight to approve the variance is the fact that the existing landing that has been there since before I owned the property, as indicated by the provided survey, has not caused any hardship or issues with any adjoining properties or interested parties in the area. Yeah, and then, yeah, again, I'm just trying to provide a safe, clear, dry entrance to the upstairs apartment. So I've actually just got done redoing the whole exterior, new roof, new siding, and this kind of all just tied in well with what I was doing of trying to just get everything done at once on the exterior, so. So yeah, so thank you for your time. That's all I have right now, so.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
I'll take the first stab at it. Again, I apologize. I didn't make it out there to witness it in person. Looking at the photo, is there a light in this overhang?
There will be a light up in the overhang, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Was there a light nearby there?
There was one mounted above the door,
Okay.
but the ice kept knocking it off. So it was just basically just a coach light mounted above the side entrance, so,
Okay.
yep.
Any other questions from our board for the applicant?
Have there been any,
Fred?
Oh,
I'm
Use
sorry.
your microphone.
There we go. Have there been any instances of accidents or something, people trying to get into that you're aware of?
Not necessarily accidents, but the tenants that I currently have was a couple of single gals, and then they had a couple of situations where they couldn't get into the apartment because being gone during the day, the ice and snow melting off the roof, landing onto there, because it's an elevated deck, it freezes much quicker than like the sidewalks around it, and so they did have a couple situations that I did have to run out there with some salt and a couple of shovels and stuff like that to try and get them into the apartment. So has anybody fallen? No, they have not yet, so.
Okay. Do you think that the roof, I mean, we all have these kind of roof protections over our side doors and things
Yep.
like that. Do you think that the roof will solve these problems of ice buildup?
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause what the situation, because the roof currently above it is a gabled roof that comes down, and then, so everything dumps right on top of it. So my idea with this is that it's basically gonna keep it off from the landing itself, so. And it is sloped away from the house, because you did talk earlier about, like water, controlling my own water and stuff like that, the drainage and stuff. So everything that's coming off there was still going to that area, so.
Okay. You know, we have guidance that we follow in making decisions about things like this, and I'd like to ask you about one that we have. You probably have seen these before.
I have, yes. and
Okay, so I was talking before our meeting today about this one. Will strict compliance with a 3-foot setback unreasonably prevent the property owner from using the property for a permitted purpose, or will render conformity with those regulations unnecessarily burdensome?
So when I answered that, I struggled with it, to be honest with you, because I couldn't come up with that great answer to say that, yes, this will comply with everything and solve all my issues, to be honest with you.
Right.
I'll be right up front, I didn't find a great way to answer that,
Okay,
to come up with a positive answer,
okay.
so.
We, on the board, there are so many people that come with good ideas.
Yep.
And they don't somehow meet these standards, and our job up here is to meet the standards.
Yep.
We can't not meet the standards. We also have to be careful with setting precedent for things that, other applications that sound like this that are deficient. So that's one of the things that, this particular one gives me some trouble, so.
Yep, I
Okay, I
agree.
just wanted to know
Yep.
what you were thinking about it.
Were there any other ideas, suggestions from, that you may be able to do something different that may comply with the zoning?
I couldn't come up with anything, because the goal, what I wanted to do here was to shed the water to the west, because given the size, I tried to keep it to as small as possible. So like on it'd be the south side, I'm not 100% covering the stairs over there yet, but there is the stairs that come from the north, those are completely covered. So if I did something smaller to shed water a different direction, then I'm gonna be I'll be putting it right back on the stairs again, so. I've been thinking about this for, to be honest, a couple of years, because that's how long these plans have been in the works to redo the home. And I didn't come up with any grand ideas, so, and I'll be right up front, the roof is already there, because I did apply for a permit, and that's what brought us to this situation, that when the inspector came out to look at it, that's what brought up the question here, so.
I think, personally, I think what you've done is a good idea, and if I were living in that other unit, I'd be very thankful that there was a roof over this. So, but anyway, okay. I don't have any further questions.
Anything else?
Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Yep,
We
thank you for your
appreciate
time.
you coming in. All right, at this time, I will open a public hearing and ask anybody who wishes to speak in support, please come to the podium. Followed by anybody who wishes to speak in opposition. Okay, thank you, and I will close the public hearing and ask for deliberation from our board then. Or a motion.
In regards to this particular item, will strict compliance with 3-foot setback unreasonably prevent the property owner from using the property for a permitted purpose? I don't think so, but on the second part there, will render conformity with those regulations unnecessarily burdensome. If the owner has to go out there to shovel it out whenever it snows or whenever it melts or we get these issues, is that unnecessarily burdensome? I'm just throwing it out there because I'm not clear on this one yet.
I mean, there is some responsibility to the renter for protecting themselves and clearing stuff like that also. I mean, probably isn't in the lease, but most people who rent do take care of their own spaces as well. I don't think the owner would have to come shovel every time. It's a small space also. I would certainly shovel it if there were ice on there. I would clear it out, but
Okay.
I know what you're saying. I mean, I kind of agree with that too.
But the door opens out? Yes,
It should open in.
should open in?
I don't know, I didn't go to the door itself.
Okay. Well, if it's an exterior door, yeah, it's gonna open in. But is there a screen door on it?
The door does swing out, it's an outswing door, because of the size of the landing at the bottom of the stairs.
So normally, those stairs are either gonna be winders, or they're gonna be very, very small landings, so there really wouldn't be a nice flat area to swing the door in.
Right.
And he's already remarked on how the door can't be open when the ice buildup is happening out there.
So if the shovel is stored outside and you're inside and you get a big storm,
You're stuck.
you're stuck
You're
inside.
stuck if you can't open the door. No, it doesn't matter where the shovel is.
Yeah, yeah, even if the shovel's inside. you
But
got access
that
to
helps
it.
reinforce the idea that the door swings out.
Yeah.
You know,
And-
I keep looking at this thing from a safety standpoint, you know. It's surprising to me that it has not been an issue of somebody having some type of an accident in this. So, yeah, that's where I just keep coming back in this, is how we can make this safer. And if this is the option, you know, it shouldn't be that bad.
And I would agree that it makes it safer, although I wouldn't say it's going to prevent the snow from building up there. Or, I mean, it's not a fail-safe, of course. And what Brad's mentioned is that this is, you know, will strict compliance with 3-foot setback unreasonably prevent, or will render conformity with these regulations unnecessarily burdensome. It's not an and, it's an or.
So either one.
So it's in either one.
There's the picture. Oh, I guess, have you seen the picture? Yeah.
Yeah, I was zooming in on my computer and I saw the white, it looked like there was a recessed light in it.
Correct.
Looking for a motion. I guess I could make one.
I make a motion to approve.
I would second that.
All right, we have motion, we have support. Any other deliberation or discussion on this? Not seeing any. Let's go for a vote.
All right, the
Do we
motion,
need
wait,
to?
Oh,
Need to have a motion.
Yeah, yeah. Findings of fact first.
Yeah.
findings of fact.
So I'm making the motion to approve. Going through my list here, I don't think that the need for this variance was created by the current property owner. I think there's some unique circumstances with this structure being about 3 feet from the property line. And I think that covers, so this narrowness of the lot and covers those two there. I think that with strict compliance with the 3-foot setback, there is no awning and no real solution to cover this and make this safer for tenants. And I do think that what we have here to cover the stairs, which are roughly 3 feet from the house, this is the minimum variance necessary, and I don't think this will cause a negative impact on the neighborhood or the neighbors or surrounding property.
Okay, the mask is off. I'm guessing you're gonna say something.
Yeah, I just had a question on any findings of fact relating to self-created. From what I heard in the discussion, I heard that this was a doorway that pre-existed. I mean, it was already there, a doorway to an upstairs apartment. So certainly that doorway and a need for ingress and egress is not something that was created by this property owner. So I think, I don't want to put words in folks' mouths, but that's one thing I heard, is whether or not the fact that there is an ingress egress door and it's just sought to be made safer, that would fit in a circumstance of a non-self-created issue. But I need to hear, I guess, I need to hear the motion, some facts or some findings relating to whether or not the request is based on self-created circumstances or circumstances that the property owner found them in with this property.
I believe I was trying to speak to it, answering the second item there, that this variance is not the result of the actions of this owner, because they did not build this property or this out-swinging door the 3 feet from the line that it already is. They're just trying to solve a safety issue.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion, we have support, we have findings of fact this time. Now, let's please go to a roll call vote.
the motion is to approve Fusak,
Yes.
Barr,
Yes.
Van Antwerp,
No.
Shay,
Yes.
Sorek.
Yes,
Motion to approve passes.
okay, thank you. And our next item on the agenda.
Yes, so the next item is for 1284 Innisbrook Court, application number 21.17Z. Paul and Lori Steers are requesting a special exception to conduct a type 2 home business swimming lessons at their home located at 1284 Innisbrook Court. They propose to have an independent contractor teaching lessons in the evenings for 2 consecutive weeks during the month of June. The board can approve this request if certain conditions are met, 39-4.02G and 39-12.12D.
Okay, thank you. And do we have somebody representing the applicant or maybe the independent contractor? Sorry. It's tough to call your daughter an independent contractor, isn't it?
Hi, guys.
Well, hi, I'm Paul Steers and my wife Lori Steers. So, I'm not exactly sure how far back you want us to go. Like last year, we proposed this idea, and then we went ahead last summer and had it for the 2 weeks. It was a big success. We're basically proposing the same thing again, just we were required to come back again to, I guess, get some input on how it all went, I guess, and to then we hope that it is approved, and then we would like to ask to then continue on, you know, indefinite then at that same proposal that we have done. So I can go into more detail,
Yeah.
but it's basically what on the proposal that we submitted with our application, all the details of the times and dates and that kind of information. So would you folks like to ask any questions, or would you
Yes,
like me
please.
to?
Any questions from our board?
Could you summarize how things went last year?
Sure, yeah, they went very well. Lori and I were there, you know, for the whole time, helping with the cars coming in, and again, they all parked in our driveway, except for if somebody had a lesson back to back, and then that person would park in the street. And there was only one car per day that did that, and then it was there for the first and the second lesson of the day. So otherwise, yeah, everybody parked in our driveway. So for the first week, there was a total of 14 cars there, which was 3.5 cars per lesson. And again, we have room for 7 or 8 cars in our driveway. And the second week then, it was only 2.5 cars per lesson, a total of 10 cars for that night. Yeah, they went very well.
Yeah, we heard great comments from our neighbors, that it was, they didn't realize, someone even approached us and said, we didn't even realize you had lessons going on.
Yeah. Yeah, the kids had a good time. They learned a
Yep.
lot. Just a lot of positive feedback from the parents. And
So your driveway does accommodate the required number of vehicles that come into that area?
Does it? You're
Does
saying?
your driveway
Yeah.
accommodate the number of vehicles
Yes.
that come for each class? Do you have 2 classes a day or 4?
4.
4,
4, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
with a passing time for the cars to come in and out.
Mhm. Okay.
So we were literally on the driveway, backing them up and telling them when to leave, when not to leave, watching for kids, watching for other cars.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Your application is asking, you have last year you had set dates. There was 2 set weeks in June that you requested and that we approved, and we put in the restrictions, which then forced you to come back again because those, now it's expired. So you're asking, in your proposal, there's 2 things. You've got the application that you filled out and nature of prior request or appeal, teaching swimming lessons in the evening for 2 consecutive weeks during the month of June. And then in the details, you do give 2 weeks proposed, June 13 to 17, 2022, June 20 to 24, 2022. And it's good that you have those dates. But what I'm trying to understand is, are you looking for a blanket 2 consecutive weeks in June for here on out?
Mm-hmm.
You're not looking for just these specific dates like you did last year, is that correct?
We are for sure looking for this coming summer.
Correct.
But then going forward, we would like to have 2 consecutive weeks in June.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we got that clarified for any potential motion that we made
Right,
here.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to tie it down to specific dates.
Or we do. It's, it depends on the motion that we.
Right.
Yeah, I
Right.
just wanted to make sure I understood the nature of your request.
Right.
Yeah, every year it would be different, because the
Right.
days, they fall on different days.
But I think our motion last year was specific with the
Correct.
dates.
Yes.
Okay. And you're not seeking any other changes other than
The dates.
basically all the same restrictions except for the dates?
Mhm.
Okay.
Correct.
Mhm.
And then you have a copy of all of those restrictions. I don't know if, Tricia, did you need to go over those again? I don't know. You have a copy, you're understanding.
I can go over them.
It'd be nice if we're, so that way we can reference them in the
Yeah.
motion.
Sure.
You had them pulled up earlier,
Did.
and there's quite a few of them.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
So the conditions granted by the zoning board of appeals last year are as follows. The home business will be clearly incidental and secondary to the principal residential use of the dwelling and limited to not more than a maximum of 50% of the floor area of the dwelling and 50% of the floor area of a detached accessory building. The home business will be conducted solely by the persons residing in the dwelling, plus not more than one non-resident. There will be no storage of materials for the home business and no other safety hazards from storage of materials for the home business. There will be no exterior alteration of the residential character of the premises. The home business will not generate noise, vibration, smoke, dust, heat, or glare other than voices of people involved with the swimming lessons, detectable beyond the property lines, nor any electrical interference with radio or television transmission in the area in excess of that produced by any normal residential use. The home business does not involve any on-site sales or pickup of merchandise by customers. There shall be no more than 6 swim students, along with their accompanying guardians, at the property at any one time. There will be no deliveries or pickup of goods and materials for the home business. There shall be no signage for the business. There shall not be more than one business operating at the dwelling. The applicant shall cause a housing inspection conducted in accordance with section 14-4.32 of the city code and shall remedy any deficiencies prior to operation of the home business. Sidebar, that was done, everything was approved, there were no violations, and that's typically only a one-time inspection request.
Okay.
So I would say that we would leave that out of the conditions for this year since that's already been completed.
Okay.
The applicant will maintain the fence around the pool in compliance with the applicable code requirements for pool enclosures. The applicant shall comply with the following further conditions. Must stagger start time of classes by at least 15 minutes per class as represented in the application so as to avoid overlap of class customers at home and at any one time. Must limit business operations to only the following dates. And again, the board may recommend 2 consecutive weeks in June instead of the date specifically listed in the application. So I'm not going to review those.
Right.
But in summary, it was a Monday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. with a Saturday available as a weather makeup date if needed. No visits between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. for both of those weeks.
Thank you. Right?
Yep.
All good?
Yeah, that all
Okay.
is good. Yeah. Uh-huh.
All right, just wanted to make sure we're, again, on the same page. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
At this time, I will open a public hearing for this application, and anybody else who wishes to speak in support of this application, please come forward.
We did get a letter.
We
as
did get a
well.
letter. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And just real brief summary from one of the neighbors?
Yes, so it's from William Thomas at 1280 Innisbrook Court, and he is in support of them having swimming lessons again this next summer.
Okay, and that's the house immediately to the west, north and west? Okay. And anyone in opposition, please? Again, state your name and address.
My name is Doug Bezine. I live at 1292 Innisbrook Court, which is the house immediately to the east. of the Steers home. And we've been here before. I'm not exactly sure what all to repeat, but it starts from when this was operated without a permit, and we had 30 or 40 vehicles a day through the property. That was a horrible experience. We do not want that again, which is why I'm here again, not really in opposition, but to raise the fact that at some point in time, there are too many cars in the neighborhood. Excuse me. So what is that right number of vehicles? The one change that I noted is that the ordinance has changed since last year, that the ordinance specifically references type 2 businesses. It gives 10 at cars. Actually, what does it say? Vehicle trips, 10 vehicle trips allowed by customers. Previously, it never referenced a number for type 2. So I don't know if we call that a guideline, a baseline, a recommendation. But the Planning Commission, the City Council, you folks, I'm sure had input, have determined that 10 vehicle trips a day is the number that sort of is allowed for home-based businesses. So I'm a very logical person, and I say, well, so what's the logic that would allow swimming lessons to have 16 to 24 vehicle trips a day? And I think it's important to note that the numbers we heard from last year were 10 one week and 14 the second week. They never even met the 16 that they, if it was 4 vehicles in each class, that would be 16 vehicle trips a day. If there were 6 students each coming in their own vehicle, that would be 24. Mm-hmm. Last summer, you didn't know they were having swimming school. At 2.5 or 3.5 cars per session, they have a large driveway. The parking issue's been solved. Most of those conditions worked. We were opposed to 24 vehicle trips last year. We're opposed to 24 vehicle trips this year, and the data from last summer doesn't help us answer the question as to what the right number is. We do know that 10 and 14 vehicle trips is fine. So I think we've proven that there's wisdom in 10 because we lived it, and you didn't know there was swimming lessons. The Steers were out there parking vehicles. I didn't even realize there was one car on the street. It went really well. So again, I think the question is, well, what is the reasonable number? And the application says most classes have 4 students in them, which would put you at 16 cars a day. That seems totally reasonable, and it's actually more than they had last summer. And it's still 60% over the guideline of the ordinance. 24 vehicle trips a day is almost 2.5 times the guidelines of the new ordinance. And we don't have really data to support if that's good or bad, but my sense is 24 is too many. So again, I'm not opposed to the application. Swimming lessons are fine to have in the neighborhood. Last year went really well. If 4 is the average number of students in a class, I think asking for 16, a 60% increase over the guideline of the ordinance, seems like a reasonable thing. Again, I'm a logical person, so why would they have more than 10? It's because it's only 2 weeks a year. They could have 10 365 days a year. I'm willing to let them have more trips per day in exchange for limiting that to 2 weeks for 10 to 10 days in the calendar year. So I think that's how I say, well, yeah, they can have more than that guideline because it's a limited time frame. So I would advocate for 16 or something like that. I think 24 is too many. Or you might say, let's do 16 again this year, and if they want to come back and ask for 24 a different year, that's fine too. As it relates to beyond next summer, we had this conversation. Does the variance stay with the property or with the applicant? Would be a question I would have. And if it's, the Steers are great people. I don't really have a problem with them doing swimming lessons, but who they sell their house to, I might have a problem with. And so that would be my question. And then, I know you're not supposed to answer my questions. The other question I would have is, 2 weeks in June, I mean, that's fine with me. Are we limiting the hours to 4 to 7 p.m. as well? I think that's a reasonable thing for all the conditions, or I think in the Steers application, they talk about avoiding mail delivery and garbage pickup and things like that. So I think making sure that it includes that time of day would be important as well.
Thank you for your input. We really appreciate it. Anybody else who wishes to speak in opposition? Not seeing anybody, I will close the public hearing. Thank you. And seek deliberation from our board, maybe a couple of clarifications. One, I'd like to reference the type 2 home-based business, the issue raised about allowable vehicle trips from customers. Type 1 home-based business, it's 10 vehicle trips from customers, and type 2 home-based business, it is also 10 or determined by the Board of Appeals, is what it says in our new ordinance. So we do have the ability at the Board of Appeals to approve 9 or 11 or 16 or 24. So we do have the ability to approve up, beyond that, so it does allow in the ordinance determined by the Board of Appeals. And I just wanted to clarify that. Any other questions, comments?
I have a couple of comments. This is a type 2 business proposal in a residential neighborhood. And I think the city and the ordinance certainly supports the idea that residential neighborhoods are meant to be for residential purposes, and that therefore any business, whether it's type 1 or type 2, have to be very carefully regulated. And that's why all of this is in place, so that not just any business can open up in any neighborhood and cause a lot of non-residential activity that makes it difficult for people to be happy living there. So that's why I think we're very supportive of a type 2 business coming into a residential, but it has to be very carefully regulated. And I think the conditions that Tricia read out show that we are carefully regulating this business. I wanted to confirm what Dan said about, I think the stipulation of vehicle trips, 10 or determined by the Board of Appeals. We discussed this, and because they're staggering their swimming lessons with a 15-minute break between each one, we don't anticipate there to be more than 6 vehicles at any one time. And the real issue here is whether traffic is going to cause enough disturbance in the neighborhood to not warrant there being a business there. And I think by limiting the number of students in each of the sessions, it satisfies our need to make sure that vehicles aren't a nuisance in this residential area, because it's staggered 4 different classes, but each one is at 6. And so we're using our discretion to determine this by the Board of Appeals by constraining the number of students and not the number of vehicles in this particular case, because we think that there won't be a vehicle disturbance if the applicant complies with the regulations that we're putting forth. Those are my comments.
As a civil engineer myself and a traffic engineer once upon a time, the idea of vehicle trips is obviously very big, and it's studied. And the idea behind vehicle trips, as a clarification, maybe to reinforce Fred's point here, is not just the total number of trips through the course of a day, but the timing, so that you don't have, to borrow a British term, queuing. And we use that term in traffic engineering, where there's a backup of traffic at any one point in time. So staggering the number of vehicle trips over a period of time is the goal, because traffic engineers, we study, naturally, we study rush hour, worst case scenarios, and spreading out those vehicle trips does meet that intent. Not just, it's not, the number of vehicle trips isn't always the most important thing. And people do maybe want to hang a coat on that one, but it's, as Fred I just wanted to reinforce that point, is that spreading it out over time
Diminishes the.
diminishes the impact
Mhm.
so that you don't have a backup of vehicles at any one given time. Sorry, that's just my professional
useful.
side gig stepping in on that one.
I think I'm ready to make a motion if you're,
Just to clarify,
sorry.
this goes with the applicant at this address, correct? Since it's a business.
Normally, the, a variance or something along the lines of this get approved for the location. They aren't tied to a person, because if they move into a different situation, they don't it doesn't go with them, because the conditions are different, for one thing. So, someone else who maybe would purchase their house and wanted to operate this too, would have to abide by the
The same
conditions that were there.
conditions.
And if they wanted to modify those conditions, they would need to come back.
Okay.
And just to make one mention of the thing about the timeframes, I know we had that listed in the conditions. The only thing that kind of was in flux was creating a 2-week consecutive time span. I don't know that there was any discussion about changing that 4 to 7.
Right. Well, the proposal that's in front of us is consistent with that, the 4 to 7 timeframe, and
And is that in there, Tricia, at the end?
yeah, the times were in the previous restrictions, yes.
Yep.
And even to the point where it gave Saturday as a weather makeup day, which is a good point to possibly make. If we do allow 2 consecutive weeks in June, we may want to make a restriction, like maybe no Sundays or something like that. Sorry, whoever might be possibly thinking about potentially making a motion.
okay, I'd like to make a motion. I move that we approve the special exception to conduct a type 2 home business of swimming lessons at the home of 1284 Innsbrook Court for 2 consecutive weeks in the month of June.
Second.
We have a motion, we have support. Any other
Yes, I
findings
have
of fact?
findings of fact.
Go ahead.
The home business is going to be operated solely by the persons residing in the dwelling, plus not more than 1 non-resident employee. The home business will not generate noise, vibration, smoke, dust, odor, heat, or glare, which is detectable beyond the property lines other than the sound of a person's voice or recreational activity. It will not. And finally, the recreational lessons instruction will be limited to the rear and side yard areas and be screened from the neighbors. And I'd like to add that the condition for this approval for special exception will reference the conditions that Tricia has read aloud and into the record.
Okay, I see people furiously taking notes. And I just want to make sure all of those notes are compiled and completed before we move on, for clarity's sake.
I have a question, Mr. Sork.
Please.
The motion, I heard 2 consecutive weeks, month of June. Is the motion 2 consecutive business working weeks, Monday through Friday, with a Saturday as a makeup day, or is it a consecutive 7 days a week in month of June motion?
It's a motion for 2 consecutive weeks in the month of June, subject to the conditions that Trish has read out.
So the Monday through Friday with the
Monday
Saturday?
through Friday with a Saturday
makeup.
and the hours that have been mentioned.
And further, does it matter, is it the first 2 consecutive working weeks or any 2 weeks in?
Any 2 consecutive weeks in the month of June.
Thank you.
In terms of the request for not to return, is that assumed in the motion that I just read? Okay. Okay, so,
Unless it goes to a July or an August
right.
or a May.
And also, if some of the conditions are broken and neighbors will complain to the city, then that will initiate a special examination of what's going on there, and perhaps they'll be brought back to re-examine the approval.
Correct.
Okay.
And they'd be issued a zoning violation.
Yes.
Right.
So we're leaving, basically, the 2 points in 13, the only thing that's changing is the dates, the time staying the same. And, what was the other point that I had? Yeah, mainly the time. And everything staying equal.
But yeah, weekdays with Saturday as a makeup date, so no Sundays. And we're just removing the day and year
Right.
from that restriction effectively is the way I look at it.
Yep.
Any further clarification?
Sorry, I don't want to belabor it, so is the also no more than 6 is the same condition last year. That's the motion. We're
That's
carrying every
correct.
one of those forward.
Yes.
That's
And that's
correct.
going to regulate, not require a need for a statement of vehicle trips because of the number of students.
That's
Thank you.
correct.
Yes, that's a
Yeah.
very good
I just wanna make-
clarification.
yeah.
So then on the vehicle trips, it would be as necessary
Right,
to meet the standards.
right.
Sorry to speak for your motion, Fred.
Thank you very much, Dan.
All right. Crystal clear now. Okay, thank you. Let's go for a roll call vote, please.
All right, the motion is to approve Van Antwerp,
Yes,
Barr,
Yes.
Fusak,
Yes.
Shay,
Yes.
Sorek.
Yes,
Motion to approve passes.
thank you. All right, and our next item would be the approval of our minutes from the October 28th meeting.
I move we approve the minutes from the October 28th meeting.
Second?
We have a motion, we have support. All in
Yes.
favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, same sign? None, and the minutes are approved. And our next meeting date is,
Next
if
year.
any applications come in,
Next year.
would be next year, January 27, 2022. Thank you. Happy
Can't wait.
holidays to everyone, and one last motion.
Motion to adjourn? Is that what we do?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Aye, they do.